Oh, hi there. I wanted to make a video talking about the Vancouver Canucks, specifically in regards to the hockey guy and his video stating that he thinks it's bad in Vancouver right now as far as how the team's constructed. He did a video called "How Bad Is It" for Vancouver, and for other teams how good it is, how bad it is for the teams, and so on and so forth. I had to disagree with him on several points. One of them being, I don't particularly like a defeatist attitude right off the start. I mean, the season hasn't started. There aren't any critical injuries, except to Derek Dorsett, who, he's not gonna help you lift a Stanley Cup, even if he's healthy. Obviously, Brock Besser was injured last year, but he's expected to play at the beginning of the season, as far as I know. And there were some other factors I wanted to mention. It's not that I think the hockey guy is wrong in his opinion. It's just I have an alternate thought on what's going on in Vancouver. Okay, let's start off with the addition of Jay Beagle and Anton Roussel. The hockey guy stated that those were good acquisitions, that they're a bit like the sandpaper that the team needs on a fourth line. The thing about guys like those is they're what you call rent-a-players. I mean, they sign contracts with Vancouver, but that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean they're not going to get moved at any point in time. And, there are a lot of players that go to the fourth line and they shouldn't be the main highlight of how the team was improved. With $12 million in cap space, I do not have any idea why the Vancouver organization has decided to sit on that money and not do anything with it. You gotta have some spare money in case a player, you're able to acquire a player or whatever. But $12.5 million and you didn't go out to get a player that can score goals. That's something I don't agree with. And also, because I'm in Vancouver, I hear it a lot. A lot of people, they hate on Alex Edler, and I don't think that's fair at all. I mean, he is Swedish, and if you heard some of my videos about what I think about Swedish hockey players, again, not necessarily, it's just like how Swedish are they kind of thing, Anyway, that all aside, him as a hockey player, okay, a lot of people say, oh, he makes bonehead moves, and there are times where he should have done something and he didn't do it. But the thing is, he's a defenseman that can score goals, and that is important. Almost all successful teams have a blue line that can, chip in a goal, or get in a goal here and there when the team needs it, and Vancouver needs goals. Edler has one more year in his contract, and the hockey guy was stating that if he got moved, he would be happy about it. I wouldn't, and I'm actually going to make a video comparing him to another defenseman that scores a lot of goals and things like that, but that's going to be a separate video. Okay, so you look at the lines. The hockey guy seems to think Pettersson's going to be in. I'm telling you, he's not making the roster this year. He's just not. If he plays 5 games, I'd be impressed. They're going to put him in the minors as they should, and take time to develop him. He's not coming out of the gate as good as Brock Besser. He's just not going to. Let's see what else is going on. Okay, these are all hypotheticals, but supposing Sven Barchi is on the first line. He has never been that good in all the years he's played in the NHL. He's not a very old man yet. He's still young, but he started his career off in Calgary, and he's played in Vancouver, and he's just, you know, he's 15 goals max. That's not a top 6 forward goal percentage, because obviously top 6 forwards, they get more ice time. You have to do better than that to be a top 6 forward player on a good team. That would be like, you know, a 15 goal scorer is like the worst goal scorer on the top 6. Along with the assists and things like that, which is another important factor with Edler. Edler can dish out assists as well. And a lot of people were very critical of Alexander Edler because of a few years when he had a very bad plus-minus. There were only 3 where he had a really bad plus-minus, and as it were, the Vancouver Canucks were lousy teams those years. As a matter of fact, his worst plus-minus, -39, stings even to just say it, but that was back in the season of 2013 and 2014, and the team just flat out was terrible. I mean, the leading goal scorer was Henrik Sedin, and he had 50 points, I believe. And the top goal scorer was Ryan Kessler at 25. Nobody else on the team got past 20 goals. You're not getting anywhere in the NHL if you don't have more than one player that can get past 20 goals. It's not happening, not unless you live in fantasy land or something. So, I mean, when I say, you know, I don't like a defeatist attitude, I don't like coming out of the gate, you know, going, well, they're going to lose, which was the impression I was hearing. You also have to take into consideration in the past that they've not done so well. But I also have made the comparison, you know, most of them are 6 foot, 200-pound guys. Why can't they make it work? And this brings me to my next point. You get a guy like Louis Eriksson. Louis Eriksson is not particularly liked in Vancouver because he's not been playing very well. But the thing is, when he was in Boston, before he came here, he was doing just fine. The second he came to Vancouver, point totals, his plus-minus wasn't too terrible, but his point totals just went, they just fell apart. He was coming off a 60-point season-ish from Boston, and then he comes here, and you know, it was the promise that, because he played with Daniel and Henrik, that he was going to revitalize that line, and you know, it didn't happen. That was all propaganda, you know, build it up into something that it wasn't. And it may or may not be Louis Eriksson's fault. He's being paid a lot of money, but there are a lot of players that, you know, they have nagging critical injuries for many years and continue to play in the NHL because of just how contracts work and what the teams expect of them, and you know, obviously they want to continue to make money and things like that. So I'm not saying that Louis Eriksson's, you know, injured and they're disguising it in any way. However, there are hockey players out there in the NHL that do play with chronic injuries, and you know, that has to be taken into consideration. Okay, so you look at some of the other guys. Michael Del Zotto. He can score a goal here or there. Didn't have that bad a season. I wasn't particularly for him going on to the Vancouver Canucks just because he spent most of his career with the New York Rangers, and I can't stand the New York Rangers. I will never buy a New York Rangers jersey. And I just hate New York for so many reasons, but a bit like Homer Simpson, I suppose. Anyway, okay, so that's him covered. Troy Stecher. I believe he's being paid too much. He's a young guy, but he wasn't that great. Not $2.5 million per year great, that's for sure. Not in my opinion. He is, you know, buddies with Brock Besser, and Brock Besser's gonna, he's going to get a big contract, that's for sure. Right now he's being paid peanuts, but I think this is the last year of his, his small contract, and then he's obviously going to get paid a lot more. I believe him to be better than Bo Horvat. Bo Horvat, he is going to move the team forward, and I think he deserves to be captain. However, I think the more important player on the team is Brock Besser. Neither Bo Horvat or Brock Besser are making the big bucks yet, but they will be. And that might be part of the rationale why they're holding on to that $12.5 million, the Vancouver Canucks organization. However, the hockey guy had made it a point to saying, well, they're overpaying Jay Beagle and Anton Roussel. And the other thing is, as I said, they're rented players, so they could be gone next season, and like, who's even going to remember them? Nobody's going out to buy an Anton Roussel jersey, I'll tell you that much. Nobody. Like, I could make other comparisons. The hockey guy will know this, but it's true. What about Brad Isbister? Byron Ritchie? Does anyone remember who those guys were? I remember who they were. And does anyone talk about them now? No. Did they make anywhere near the kind of money that Anton Roussel was going to make and Jay Beagle? Absolutely not. And they played their part on a Vancouver Canucks team for the time, which was better than the team that they have now, as in, last year, because, every year I think a team deserves a fresh start. And look, 20-odd guys, interchanging and things like that, that's saying that, on average, 6 foot, 200 pounds, they should be able to get it done. I think, coaching to player statistics is really what's the malfunction on the team. The coaches that have come to replace since Alain Vigneault have just not been very good. I think it was a mistake to get rid of Alain Vigneault, to be honest. I think they should have held on to him for a little bit longer. I mean, obviously the Canucks were starting to slump after their Stanley Cup Finals appearance in 2011, but I don't think that was good enough reason to get rid of him, especially with the coaches they have now. I mean, Travis Green, I wouldn't really want to be mean about it, but he's not getting it done, and I think that's a big part of the problem, because you also take a guy like Sam Gagner, comes to Vancouver, and the hockey guy didn't like that either. And it's like, he just came off a not bad season in Columbus. I admit Columbus was the better team last year, or the year before, I should say, before he came to Vancouver, but even so. And Sam Gagner has had point totals on bad teams. He had a good point total on Arizona, and he had good point totals on Edmonton. He had bad plus minus, but that's because he's on a bad team. And this time around, the point totals aren't there. And, it's something to do with just the management of the chemistry of the Canucks, which isn't the player's fault, and why I think a guy like Louis Eriksson still has potential for trade value. A lot of people are going to look at his last 2 seasons and go, ooh, those are bad point total seasons. But, if you follow the pattern of players that had good point total seasons, they come to Vancouver, and then all of a sudden it's just like, eek, it all falls apart. You gotta, go, maybe there's something wrong with the coaching staff and the chemistry they have on managing these players properly and utilizing them to their full effect. So I still think that Louis Eriksson is a good hockey player, and that he could have a successful career on another team. And that's probably the same with Sam Gagner. And, I was kind of on the fence about Louis Eriksson, but I was happy about Sam Gagner coming here. And, you know, I would say that they can make it work if they just figure out the chemistry of the team a bit better. Yeah, and then you look at all the other defensemen on Vancouver, you know, not to switch back from forwards to defense and all that sort of stuff, and the defense is just not there. Like, the hockey guy mentioned it, but the other defenseman, Chris Tanev, supposed to be one of the best defensemen on Vancouver, he's, you know, he's alright, but I wouldn't say he's the best or anything like that. He wouldn't have massive trade value to him. He would definitely be worth someone keeping. He's definitely a good piece, but he can't be compared to a lot of other defensemen in the league. And that's the same thing with Troy Stecher. It's the same thing with Alex Biega. And, you know, a handful of other defensemen who can't score goals, like Eric Gudbranson. And I did make a video saying, give him a chance. He's getting paid a lot, give him a chance though. And I don't know, man. There aren't any real memorable fights that he's been in, and that was one of his selling points when he arrived. That's something to consider. He's being paid a lot of money, and as the hockey guy stated, he's big and slow. So these are all, you know, things to be considered. But I'm really against people bad rapping the Canucks before the gates even open, and I think that Alex Edler has been a better Canuck than a lot of players and a lot of people would like to admit. He helped the Vancouver Canucks in 2011 get to where they were. He's a defenseman who can get points. Do I think the Canucks should re-sign him? Absolutely. I don't think he should make more money. I think he should make less money because, you know, the Canucks just haven't been as good and all that. Maybe Alex Edler could get more money someplace else, and that might be what he would want to do at the end of his contract. But I think that he's someone worth keeping. And at $5 million, that is expensive, but there are other defensemen who are nowhere near as good that are making a lot more money, and I will talk about that a bit later. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.